Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Hotelympia. This is the Cafe Commerce stage. I'd like to welcome onto the stage Claire Bowen, who is a coffeepreneur and author of The Daily Grind.
Thank you. Hello. Now, have you ever wondered why the cafe that you pass every day suddenly closes down? Well, today I'm going to talk to you about the 7 deadly sins cafe owners make and how to avoid them. I'm Claire Bowen, coffeepreneur, coffee shop and cafe consultant, and author of the best-selling book, The Daily Grind, How to Open and Run a Coffee Shop That Makes Money. I'm also co-founder with my business partner and husband, Andrew, of Cafe Success, which is the largest free online resource for independent coffee shop and cafe owners. I also run the Coffee Shop Boot Camps, which is a 2-day intensive course for budding coffee shop and cafe owners to get a head start before they open their coffee shops. And I'm delighted to see 2 of our previous boot campers here today to support me. So, who from school remembers the 7 deadly sins? Well, I'm sure you all remember the first one. Lust. A successful cafe needs to be lusted by their guests. If you're still wearing flares, you need to look at the latest trends. Unless you're Betty's of Harrogate, you need to move with the times. And things move really, really quickly in our industry. They bubble along for years and then suddenly pop up from nowhere. Just think of these issues. Gluten-free, vegetarian, vegan options, turmeric and matcha lattes, the paleo diet and the functional foods. Then you've got the coconut, almond, rice, oat milks, even albatross milk. Well, I may have made the last one up, but you get the idea. So who remembers when a flat white was exotic? Not anymore. You can get a flat white now in McDonald's. You must move with the times to be lusted after. 5 years ago, you could get away with it, but not anymore. For example, 1 in 4 people did not eat meat in January. Who saw that coming? 5% of people are medically gluten intolerant, but 25% of people avoid it. So if you've got a party of guests, the person who's gluten intolerant will leave those guests to someone who provides them with the right food. And if you can't do it, they'll go to your competitors. So, to be lusted by your guests, ditch the flares, move with the times, and stay relevant. Update your menu regularly. Watch the market. Get out and about and see what's new. You'll never know what will be a winner until you go out and try it. One thing's for sure, staying still is actually moving backwards. Now, lots of cafes suffer from this one because they think gluttony is a good vice. They try to be all things to all people, and their range is too big and they've got too many ingredients. I had a client recently who wanted to open a coffee shop selling pizzas and burgers, turning it into a wine bar. Perhaps the holy grail of hospitality, but I can't think of one concept that can succeed in the pursuit of being everything to everyone. You have to be famous for one thing. You think McDonald's, you think burgers, you think pret-a-manger, you think sandwiches, think yo sushi. Well, you get the idea. Today, more than ever, the trend is for all new concepts to be focused on being good at one thing. They have clear branding, so when you walk in, you know what you're going to get. Flatiron sells Flatiron safe. Patty and Bun sells burgers. Duck and Waffle sell duck and waffles. So be amazing at what you do. Be famous for something. And make it easy for your guests to understand what you do. So clear the clutter. Become the institution and the default choice in your location. Be talked about, be recommended, and be famous. Now, greed is often confused with gluttony. But sometimes coffee shop owners aren't greedy enough. Prices don't reflect the quality of what they offer. When you talk to a typical coffee shop or cafe owner, they are very, very proud of what they do. They are so passionate that they can talk for hours about what makes them better. They're fresher, they're tastier, they use local suppliers, they make everything on site. However, after all these extras, they're still afraid of charging more than the Costa down the road. And to use another biblical reference, they hide their light under a bushel because they don't share their story. Their prices are too low, they're afraid to charge what things are worth, they worry that they'll lose their customers, and they lack confidence in what they offer. There's not enough differentiation between them and their competitors. Now, people love stories, and what every independent business has is a great story. From the passion of the founders to the time and effort put into developing the flavors, the recipes, the perfect ingredients, everything they do. Now, this may seem normal to us, but it's extraordinary to our guests. And they're desperate to hear about it. The great things you do in your local community, your local suppliers you support, all these things the chains cannot compete with. So why aren't independents shouting about their story? Now, the better the story, the better things will taste. The better the story, the more you can charge. So tell your amazing story. Be bold with pricing. Be better. Be unique. Make products worth more and then charge more. Now, lots of business fall into this trap. Sloth takes over. This is often confused with laziness. It's not about being lazy. It's about complacency. Most owners work really, really hard in their business. They get up early, work late, work on days off, cover sickness, and they usually have a very poor work-life balance. We find that the coffee shop and cafe owners first started up because they wanted to be their own boss. They wanted to be in charge of their own destiny. And they usually came from large businesses and hated the corporate life. Often this distaste with the big corporates results in their business being very uncorporate, lacking even the basic controls. This lack of framework results in a lack of consistency, which might delight the customer who is served by chef number one with huge portions garnished to the hilt, but equally disappoint when they're served by chef number two with a much smaller portion. For your relationships with your customers, it's the little things that matter, and it's the little things that niggle. You might even get 3 chances. On the first chance, the first mistake you make, they'll forgive you. On the second mistake, they'll think you're mad. But on the third mistake, they will leave you, and they'll tell everyone why they're leaving. Now, back in the day, that used to be telling 10 people. But today, with social media, that's thousands, if not millions of people. A bad experience is the result of bad control. You need to manage the margins. At worst, we see no costings at all, and at best we see costings that are out of date. And by the way, why is it in our industry that people don't know how much things cost to make? Is it because of the seemingly high margins and the comfort blanket? Other issues that cause a problem are like having no control of the cash, with no cash flow forecaster. Often our type of business can survive for 18 months on credit before the cracks start showing and the inevitable happens. No controls lead to margin issues and excessive staff costs. This complacency is confounded with the confusion between marketing and advertising. Now, you may not want to spend money on advertising, but never forget marketing. Marketing is every touch point in your business, everything your guest sees as they come in to your business. Getting these things right is really important. It's the little things that matter. And to get these things right is nigh on impossible without rules. So, just because you're independent, it doesn't mean that you can't have rules, targets, standards, and a consistent message. Consumer expectations are very high now. The consumers know what looks good, and if you're not good, they won't be back. We see this one a lot. It's often the beginning of the end of a business. The owner gets frustrated that all his efforts doesn't result in the lifestyle that he first wanted when he first opened. Wrath is the point where the owner takes out all his frustrations on everybody else. They are emotionally and rationally full, at breaking point. This shows itself in a lot of shouting and mood swings, which I'm sure you've all seen. They can't see the wood from the trees and they start drowning. They lose the respect of the teams and then they actually alienate their teams. They start losing all their good people. They start spiraling into decline. They pay too little. They have high staff turnover and they don't train. They worry about the cost of training, but they forget about the even higher cost of not training. They spend no time working on their business and all their time working in it. They don't even spend time doing the rotas, doing the stock taking, chasing credits, mending broken machinery, let alone decorate. They have bad scheduling and they waste even more money. And we all know that the work expands to fill the time available, and this results in a disillusioned team that gives rubbish service. So, build a great team, recruit for the hospitality gene, and then train and be flexible with working patterns. Communicate well and delegate as much as you possibly can. You need to look at some of the outstanding successes in today's market, such as loungers and pret-a-manger, when they put the team at the heart of their business. Engage your team, share your vision with your team, and you'll be amazed what happens when you share your passion and your vision. Pay as much as you can afford and more. And have fun. A happy team equals happy customers. Get this right and you will become the magnet for the best place to work in town. Amazing things happen when you build a team. Now, even the most successful can fall foul of this one. It's the magpie effect, where people are attracted to shiny new objects. A shiny cafe opens up with a beautiful, bright new entrance, stealing your guests away to never come back. Envy is a painful death. There's nothing worse to a cafe owner than watching their customers go across the road to their competitors. We've all seen this happen. And then listen to the owner's frustration as to why his regulars have deserted him. Actually, their cafe is probably tired and worn out. Perhaps in the early days they wanted to save money when they were designing and getting the equipment and the furnishing, something that would cope with the hard wear and tear. And they didn't put money aside for the inevitable refit. They haven't done enough to make their regulars loyal. A quick question. Who in the room wants their girlfriend, boyfriend, husband or wife to be regular? Absolutely. We want loyalty above everything else. They haven't nurtured their guests to be loyal. There's no reward scheme. They don't even have their contact details. They don't have a feedback process, and they are not trying out new things. Even the chains fall foul of this one. They focus all their energy and their money into their new site, leaving their old sites to just fade away and become like a millstone around their necks. There's too many to mention. You only have to look at the press recently to see the likes of Jamie, Byron and Prezzo, and many, many more. So, your guests must be loyal and not just regular. To do this, you must be fit or reinvest every 3 to 5 years. Stay fresh and stay shiny. Now, we all know what comes before a fall. The issue here is that just after they open, the cafe owners become irrationally self-confident. They're increasingly reluctant to listen to the advice of others, and they become very impulsive in their actions. For example, they believe in the build it and they will come school of marketing, and they'll build their trade by word of mouth and passing traffic. The number of cafes that just have a Facebook page is astonishing. They worry about reviews or complaints but do nothing about it, and they don't even look onto TripAdvisor. Many don't even have a website, so they are not in control of their web presence. Recently, I looked at the web presence of 1,500 coffee shops and cafes in London. The thing that flabbergasted me was not the fact that the websites were old and out of date, not the fact that the websites were not mobile friendly, not even the fact that the websites had a poor design. It was the fact that 66% of those cafes didn't have a website at all. And they weren't in control of their web presence. For the first time, this generation has a computer in every pocket. So these owners let pride get in the way of being helped. One person cannot be the expert of everything. They need to delegate. It's about your guests, not you. Take the right advice. Build a network. Your suppliers can help, and non-competing coffee businesses too. Join an entrepreneurs group or a trade body. Read the E-Myth. Become an entrepreneur again and not the technician in your business. But above all, listen to feedback. So I believe the virtues of a successful cafe owner are to be relevant and get your guests to lust after you. Be famous for something and tell your amazing story. It's not about being lazy, it's about setting targets. So don't be angry, build an amazing team and get your competitors to be envious of you by keeping your business refreshed. but above all, listen to feedback. And thank you for listening to me today. Now you can download this presentation from our website, and if you go to the Coffee Shop Bootcamp website, you can find out more about our next Coffee Shop Bootcamp.